Tahani Mustafa joins me now from Amman. She's a Palestine analyst working for the International Crisis Group. Tahani, thanks very much indeed for joining us on the News Hour. It does appear that it's just yet another move from Israel to try and exert further pressure on Hamas. What's your assessment of the latest development?
Well, that's right. Right now, Israel is trying to weaponize the use of aid and starvation in order to exert political pressure on Hamas to accept an undisclosed initiative that they didn't even know about, that Israel had introduced around the first phase, which is requesting an extension, effectively, where they get all their hostages back, but that still gives them the opportunity to resume the war, which is not what had been agreed upon in the initial ceasefire agreements. And so this is really just another ploy now to pressure Hamas to accept those conditions by collectively punishing what is left of Gaza's 2.3 million.
But the two sides remain very far apart, and making it through to phase two appears to be impossible if they both hold their current positions, with Israel not wanting to commit to a full withdrawal of troops. So, what's your feeling? Where does it go from here?
Well, I think many were quite skeptical about these ceasefire negotiations to begin with, precisely for those reasons. Israel has been insisting on going full-on maximalist with its objectives. That's been the case since day one. We've seen numerous leaks from Israeli media, effectively evidencing the way that Netanyahu has tried to derail and torpedo every attempt at a potential ceasefire since the start of this onslaught. That hasn't changed. I think many expected Israel to try and derail this current ceasefire. We've seen them commit something like over 400 violations during the first phase, including after the initial half of that phase, 14 days, where they refused to enter into negotiations around phase two. And so to see Israel now trying to derail the second phase is really no surprise. Hamas are requesting that Israel effectively, commit to what had been agreed upon, which was, permanent cessation of hostilities as well as the full withdrawal. But it's no surprise that Israel is now rescinding on many of those agreements, trying to shift the mileposts around those agreements, and now effectively requesting an extension of phase one, whereby Israel gets back all its hostages, but then wants a resumption of the war. Unfortunately, that has been the stumbling block since the outset. I don't think many who have been following events closely were expecting phase two, never mind phase three, to actually pan out. So the fact that we've actually managed to get this far is quite a surprise. And so, it doesn't look very good in terms of the prospects of a second phase, especially given that we're not seeing much pressure on Israel from its Western allies, who have the most leverage here to rein them in.
Well, and you mentioned the Western allies. Donald Trump has shown once again that he is just as comfortable, apparently, upsetting his allies as he is his adversaries. He's cut Israel out of these latest round of talks and dealing directly with Hamas. How optimistic are you that those talks with Hamas might bear fruit?
Look, ultimately, Donald Trump is someone who is going to pursue U.S. interests here, and if he can get U.S. hostages back, that's exactly what he's now trying to pursue, cutting out the middleman, which would normally be Qatar or other regional mediators, and going straight to Hamas. But this isn't really about trying to secure permanent cessation of hostilities or, giving Gazans some kind of reprieve here. It's about securing their own hostages, any U.S. citizens that Hamas currently have in their keep. But I think in terms of what we're seeing and hearing from the Trump administration, again, it's quite contradictory. On the one hand, you're seeing them cut out regional mediators, dealing with what many have considered an international pariah, which is Hamas, which is quite an unprecedented move. On the other hand, you're also seeing the resumption of weapon sales to Israel that not only is enabling Israel to pursue or to continue to pursue its campaign in Gaza, but also now in the West Bank, where we're seeing, mass levels of direct and indirect displacement.
Tahani, we thank you very much indeed for your analysis today. Tahani Mustafa there joining us from Amman.